Hello and welcome to a new video. So today we're going to be talking a little bit more about the One Piece card game. I recommend you watch my previous video first. That's a very highly scripted, highly edited video where I explain how to play the game. This isn't that, as you can tell by the fact I already stumbled over my words. This is going to be an unscripted discussion video talking about the rules of the game. Now, why do this? Why split it into two videos? Well, because they have different purposes, right? The first video is just explaining what we know about how to play the game. Now, of course, that video was still made before the game's out. This video is still made before the game is out. And so there's going to be some information that either we just don't know much about, gets outdated later on, or I'm just straight up wrong about, right? But I felt like we knew enough to make that first video because I wanted to give people a feel for how it plays, even if everything isn't exactly correct and exactly accurate to how the game is played when it's released. It's still close enough that anyone who watches it will have a really good idea of how the game is played, right? And this video, the purpose is my opinions, right? I'm going to be judging whether or not the rules are good, right? Because of course, why play a card game if it's not fun to play? And I think we know at least enough about the rules that we'll get a pretty good judge of what parts of the rules I like and what parts I maybe don't like. Like I said though, not only are these rules not set in stone, you know, we might learn even just little pieces of information that recontextualize these rules a lot, but also card reveals will do that too. This is not a card reveal video. I will not be talking about individual cards. That'll be a future video where we talk about some of the card reveals, and the more cards we get revealed, the more accurately we can judge these rules. But I feel like having a nice first impression type thing where I talk about what I like about the rules could be interesting. So without further ado, and before we go on, I want to once again thank Freedom Duo. The link to his website is down here, but it'll also be in the description. I'm being lazy this time, just admitting it. I'm just going to be lazy and just show Freedom Duo's translation of the rules on screen as I talk about it. Because it's easier. And whatever reason do I need, really, you know? So let's go, right? Be sure to visit Freedom Duo's blog in the description and show him some love in any way you feel is accurate, I guess. Like I said, I'm stumbling over my words already. But so let's talk about the leader card. So I'm going into this video assuming you either have seen my other video on how to play or you have already learned how to play in your own time. So I'm not going to be talking about what each card does, but instead I'm going to be giving my opinions on them. So the leader cards. Immediately, the thing that stands out about leader cards is, of course, they are the boss unit of your deck. They are the card that the entire deck revolves around. Unlike a lot of other trading card games, you don't need to draw into it. You don't have this random element of luck, making you have to just, get lucky and draw the card from your deck. This is a reoccurring theme in One Piece TCG. Now, before anyone says it, I know everyone's already thinking it, this is the same mechanic as Dragon Ball. The thing is, I have not played the Dragon Ball card game, so I am not familiar. This is the opinion of someone who hasn't played Dragon Ball. I haven't played Digimon. My only experience with Digimon is that tutorial app they made a while back. I played that when it first released, and I've not thought about the game since, really. Not a positive or negative thing, I just haven't had the time for it. I never really got into Digimon any aspect of it myself, let alone the card game. So that's not a value judgment or anything. But rather this is coming from someone who's familiar with Pokemon, familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh!, familiar with Vanguard, right? So all of those games require you to draw into your boss unit, right? From your deck. You have like a 50, 60, whatever card deck. And you're drawing into the card that your whole strategy revolves around. What does this mean? This means you get unlucky, or you deck search. And for a lot of these games, it's deck searching. You are going to deck search for your card. Which means that some games, especially Pokemon, just become a game of who can deck search for their boss unit first, and whoever does basically wins. And so most of Pokemon's a very slow game, mainly because you're spending 90% of your time searching for your deck and then shuffling your deck again. This game won't need it as much because you don't need to deck search for your leader. This is great for a lot of reasons. The first of which, the most important of which, and it seems to be something this game is focusing on a lot, is the lack of randomization, right? So there's this idea in card games that there's skill and there's luck. And this applies to a lot of games, right? Where you can win because you're skillful, you can win because you're lucky. Card games are always going to have an element of luck, right? Because you have a deck and you're randomly drawing cards that you've shuffled. So there's always going to be some luck to a game. But by minimizing the amount of luck there is, you're making it more focused on the strategy. If both players have an even playing field, then it's about who outsmarts their opponent that leads to the victory. Think about chess, right? Chess is known as like the most strategy-focused game in the world. And it's a game where both players have an even playing field. They both have access to the exact same pieces at the beginning of the game. Well, that's what I like about the leader cards, right? Because you're guaranteed your leader. Both players are guaranteed their leader at the beginning of the game, and that means you can focus more on your strategy rather than, pulling your hair out trying to draw it, or deck search for it. Which means your deck is going to have a lot less filler in it. You're going to have a lot less Pot of Greed type cards in there. And it also means that you can then instead have cards that focus on furthering your strategy instead in other ways. Don't get me wrong, there are definitely going to be deck search cards in there. For certain. But there's definitely going to be a lesser emphasis on it because of the rules put in place. And I think that's really good, in my opinion. I do need to address, I mentioned that Vanguard also has a heavy emphasis on drawing into your boss unit. That's less relevant now because of the ride deck. I just wanted to say that before anyone in the comments corrects me. Cool. That's what running a YouTube channel does to you. And speaking of, if I am incorrect about anything, or if you have a different perspective, definitely feel free to put it in the comments. I'm definitely interested in reading it. I mean that too. That's sincere. That's not sarcastic. It may sound sarcastic, but it isn't. So the Dawn cards. The Dawn cards I feel like are going to be divisive. I feel like whether or not you enjoy this game is going to hinge on how the Dawn card system is handled and your feelings towards it. So a lot of games have resources and resource management, and I like this on paper, right? Because I don't like games with OTKing. The fastest way to turn me off of a game is by having one turn kills, is what that means, right? I don't like it when the losing player doesn't get much of a chance to fight back. There's definitely a very specific length a card game should have, and it should be just long enough that a player with an unlucky start has a few turns to turn the game back round to their favor. That's how long a game should be, and if a game is significantly shorter than that, if someone can win in the first couple of turns, cough Yu-Gi-Oh! Cough, sorry, I have a really bad cold. It's a rare disease that makes me say the word cough instead of actually cough. It's really weird. But yeah, no, and so you need to have some kind of resource to slow the game down, basically, right? And this is why I think some games go in the opposite direction. I think some games slow the game down too much with their resource management. Looking at you, Magic the Gathering, and Dawn cards are very similar, right? On the surface, land cards and Dawn cards have a similar use. Here's the big difference. This is the thing that made me think, oh no, we're doing this again with One Piece. But then actually made me go, wait a second, this is interesting, I quite like this. And you know what it is? You don't shuffle them into your main deck. Again, it's the exact same thing I just praised about the leader card. You do not shuffle Dawn cards into your main deck. They are instead on the side as a separate extra deck. What this means is both players are guaranteed a certain amount of Dawn cards. You don't have to draw into your land cards like in Magic the Gathering. Again, that random luck element and for a cost element is really bad. This means that Pokemon, at the very least, like the entire game is once again revolving around deck searching for energy cards so that you can attach it to your Pokemon. Well, let's just get rid of the deck searching entirely by just removing them from your deck. The player going first will start with 1 Dawn card and then each turn get 2 more. And then the player going second will start with, 2 Dawn cards on their first turn and then get 2 each turn, succeeding that. Now, of course, there will definitely be cards that affect the amount of Dawn cards you get. For example, there are cards that force you to put your Dawn cards back into the Dawn deck again to activate those effects. And there will probably also be cards that let you place out another Dawn card into the cost area. So there will definitely be ways of somewhat controlling the amount of Dawn cards you get, but the idea that at a bare minimum, you are guaranteed to get 2 new Dawn cards to play with each new turn means that the pacing of the game is more tightly controlled. And once again, removes luck. Because I can't imagine anything more frustrating than having the Dawn cards shuffled into your main deck and having to draw into them. Or deck search for them to get them. I don't want that. I just want to have them out and boom, you don't need to worry about it. And that's the thing I love about Dawn cards. It makes me very optimistic that there'll be a good way of controlling the pace of the game, making it so that you're not getting one-shot kills and getting out your most powerful card on the very first turn. Although, clip that segment, because in a year's time we'll have to see how well that holds out, depending on what cards and stuff get announced. But it doesn't seem glacial in its pacing, you don't have to draw into them. Perfect. Love that. So we'll have to see. So another thing with the Dawn cards too is this current one is a vanilla, just you attach it to a card, it gains 1,000 power. We don't know if there are going to be other Dawn cards. We've seen alternate artwork versions of this Dawn card where they have manga panels instead of just the sound effect. But in terms of abilities, we don't have any other confirmed abilities. We will probably get them. When will we get them? I don't know, but we probably will get them, yeah. And it'll be interesting to see how, just having 1 new Dawn card could change a game pretty drastically because of the fact you're guaranteed them, right? So, here are the character cards. I don't have much to say about the character cards, to be honest. They're fairly basic cards, right? And same goes for event cards, really. The only other thing I really have to say with the event cards is the triggers. So, basically, as you know, when you take damage, you reveal a card from your life, and if it has a trigger ability, you activate that ability, right? So this is where the random element comes back in. Obviously, a game that's too tightly controlled and too consistent can get a bit boring, right? Can get a bit stale. So having a luck element in there, or just an element that spices up the game a bit, this is an interesting way of doing it. We don't know if you're limited to how many kinds of trigger cards you can have per deck. You may have a strict limit on that, or they may just go, you can have as many as you want, but a lot of the best cards won't have them, so you're not just going to be running nothing but triggers. It's an interesting mechanic. The trigger they give here is a fairly weak seeming one. You just get 1,000 extra power, which basically the only real use for that is you're going to give it to your leader because you're activating this during your opponent's turn. So you're going to give it to your leader and you're going to make it more difficult for your opponent to attack again, basically. So that's the only real purpose this one specifically seems to have, but it's an interesting feature that I don't have much to say about because I have to see how many of them you get per deck and how varied their abilities are, right? So it is interesting, and it's a good way of implementing randomization to the game because it's something that you can work around. If your opponent draws one of those, you can definitely find a way around it, but you definitely need to plan ahead for it too, and it's not going to really swing games. It's not an over-trigger, let's just say that. Anyone who knows what the word over-trigger means is getting flashbacks to the war right now. So yeah, you got your stage. Not much to really say about that, to be honest. I want to keep this video kind of short. Same with the field. We're just going to kind of skip over that for now. So one thing I want to talk about here, right, is you got your main deck and you got your Dawn deck, right? And then you got your leader card. So these have different card backs. So your Dawn deck has like the white card back, and then your main deck has the blue one, right? And then I don't think we know what the card back for the leader card is going to be. If you know for certain, tell me. I'm guessing it's going to be the Dawn deck card back. Now, why is this important? This is important because it seems to imply that you'll be allowed to sleeve these two things differently, right? So when you sleeve them, you know, you'll be able to sleeve one color or one type of sleeve for your main deck, and then another type of sleeve for your Dawn deck and leader card. Now, this is a very small quality of life thing, so I'm not going to really stick on it too much. But if you are allowed to do so, which the card backs seem to be implying, it means that you won't have the problem of accidentally shuffling one of your Dawn cards into your main deck without realizing, because it'll be a different color. I really appreciate that. That's great. It means you can separate the two very easily without needing to worry about accidentally shuffling a card in there or an accident. It's happened to me before, let's just say that. And it can be very embarrassing. So I'm glad that seems to be a thing. Not officially confirmed. We'll have to see when we get like tournament and event rulings. At least as far as I'm aware. I do need to preface all this with an as far as I'm aware. I'm not an omnipotent being. I don't know everything. So there are some things that may have like confirmations that I'm just not aware of. If so, feel free to be annoying and fact check me in the comments. I don't mind, trust me. But yeah, very nice little quality of life improvement. So we got these things here. You can attach Dawn cards and everything. So here's another thing I wanted to talk about quickly, and that is the fact that the way this is worded is very specific. This may not be accurate. Who knows? We'll know like as we get closer. But the way this is worded specifically is you can do any of these 4 things in any order you want, as many times as you want, as long as you can physically. And what's interesting about this is usually attacks are fairly locked down in card games. So in some games, if you attack, that just straight up ends your turn. And in other games, it will like end your main phase, like in Yu-Gi-Oh! You will get an optional second main phase after the attack, but you know, you're very locked into when you can and can't attack. Whereas in One Piece TCG, you can you have a lot more freedom with when you can attack. What does this mean? Well, going back to the strategy thing I talked about, right? You know how I was like, well, by having the game less randomized, it means you can focus more on the strategy you're using. This is what I'm talking about, because if you can attack whenever you want, that means you could potentially daisy chain abilities together, right? So for example, if you attack with one card, that card may, for example, have an ability that's like, when this card attacks, play a card from your hand, right? Or like play it for a cheaper cost. And so that means you can attack, play a card, and then attack again. And that's just a very basic example, right? If you can do anything in any order you want, that means you get a lot of flexibility about what strategy you use, right? Like, and another example, when this card attacks, take one Dawn card out of the Dawn deck and into the cost area, which means that now you can, once that attack's over, attach that Dawn card to like your leader card and then attack with the leader card, right? Again, these are very simple combos, but it's very exciting to think about how complex these combos can get later on. Because you can do anything in any order, and the phases aren't locked down as heavily as they are in a lot of other card games, this means that this could leave room for a lot of strategy. And it means that even 2 players with the exact same deck could play very different games to each other depending on what order they do everything in. And that is fascinating to me. I'm really interested to see how this gets implemented. Now, of course, there could just be one dominant strategy. For example, it's entirely possible that the dominant strategy would just be always attack last after you've already got everything set up anyway. But it's interesting to know that if you want to, you can change the order you do things in. And I think that's a really interesting thing to do. Yeah, it also means you can respond to triggers better. So if you attack and your opponent gets a trigger that gives them more power, you can be like, okay, now it's worth playing this extra character card from my hand because I can now react to this trigger. So knowing what your opponent is doing is also kind of half the battle, right? So I like that a lot. That's a really interesting thing that you can do. And then yeah, there's attaching Dawn cards is kind of like the last big thing I want to talk about for now. I don't want to get this video too long or ranty. So attaching Dawn cards is really interesting because it means you're not wasting Dawn cards. This is something that's been said by other people. This isn't like a revolutionary or new take, but it's an interesting one, right? A lot of card games have costs, like cards, you know, like land cards for Magic. They just go unused, right? Like you have 3 Dawn cards on the field, but the character card you want to play has a 2 cost, and you don't have anything 1 cost that's worth playing in your hand. Well, just attach the leftover remaining one to your leader, and boom, higher attack power. Perfect. You know, I think that's really interesting. It means that no matter what strategy you use, you can still make the most out of what you have. You don't need to worry about like, oh, I have 5 costs on the field, but the card I want to play is a 3 cost. Should I just suck it up and play the 5 cost so that I'm not wasting resources? Or should I like do something else? No, just play the 3 costs and then attach the 2 Dawn cards wherever you want. I think that's a really good and smart way of doing things. I do want to quickly acknowledge right at the beginning of the video, I mentioned I wanted to point out the rules that I liked and the rules that I didn't like so much. That was kind of a lie. I'm very positive towards everything so far. Again, I guess we won't notice some of the flaws with the game until we see completed decks in action. So card reveals and deck lists are the things to watch out for, basically. But yeah, so far I'm very excited for this game, for sure. And another thing too is that when attacking, I think it says here, yeah, it says in bold letters so you don't miss it. If the attacking card has higher power, it wins. This is important because in some games like Carbide Vanguard, if your power is the same, you still win anyway. Why is this important? This is important because of magic numbers. If we go back to the previous image here, right? So we've got a Jinbei attacking an ulti and a Kaido. Now what you might notice, and the image may be too low quality for you to be able to see clearly, Jinbei has 5,000 power, Kaido has 5,000 power, and ulti has 5,000 power. This is what is known as magic numbers, right? Magic numbers are the numbers you want to hit in an attack. So if the vanilla attack number, or the most common attack number for cards, for example, is 5,000, you're going to need to rely on these Dawn cards, which gives them an extra purpose, which means strategizing when to attach them and when to use them as cost is going to be incredibly important. If you have a 5,000 Jinbei and a 5,000 leader Luffy on the field, then them just attacking the 5,000 Kaido isn't going to do anything. You're going to want to attach your Dawn card to the Jinbei, attack with that, and then use Jinbei's ability, which allows you to give the extra 1,000 to the Luffy, and then attack with that. That's a very simple example of strategy, but I like that it's there. By having more common attack values, like I'm sure certain cost cards will have certain vanilla attack values that are more common, right? And so by having these really common attack numbers, that means you're going to have cards of equal strength facing against each other quite a lot. And so this means your usage of card abilities, combos, and Dawn cards are going to be more important than ever. And that is the strategy I was talking about earlier. It means by planning your turns out in advance and knowing exactly what it is you want to do and when to do it, that's going to be what swings a game. I definitely foresee a lot of tournaments being won or lost based on someone successfully deciding when to attach Dawn cards. And that is really exciting to me. A lot more exciting than the war flashbacks of over triggers, let me just say that. If you don't know, don't worry about it, it's fine. So yeah, that's where I'm going to end this video for now. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. Remember, go to Freedom Duo's blog, link in the description. I definitely owe him a lot for providing these translations. That much will not go understated. I tried to learn Japanese for a while, and it didn't go very well. So I definitely really appreciate anyone who puts out translations like this. I owe them a lot. These videos wouldn't be possible without them. So definitely go ahead and do that. And, you know, whilst you're at it, you may as well subscribe to this channel more to see, as well, to see more One Piece TCG content in the future. Remember to watch my other video where I talk about how to play the game. Obviously, if you're doing so, it's a very confusing order to watch these two videos in, but hey, I won't judge you. And remember that I'm going to be putting out more One Piece TCG videos in future. There's going to be a variety of a lot. And, well, what's the most common type of One Piece TCG video out there that I haven't covered yet? Card reveals. Yeah, I haven't actually talked about any individual cards yet, so be sure to stay tuned to see me do that in future. So yeah, if you liked the video, like the video. It's as simple as that. And comment on the video to let me know your thoughts as well. Remember to subscribe to see more videos like this. And remember, for every statement, there's always an asterisk. See ya!